We have a lot of experience selling duplexes. Today I'm going to talk about how you can sell a duplex and make the most money when doing it. So, like I say, we have a lot of experience selling duplexes. So I've owned or own 5 duplexes. I've sold, and my team has sold, well over 100 duplexes. We're the top duplex listing agent in Austin right now, and we work for the top duplex flipper in Austin. So we have a lot of experience selling duplexes. I've sold a ton of duplexes both here in Austin and in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Still do in both markets. And I love duplex properties. So I got into duplexes by house hacking. I've owned them as rental properties. I love them as house hacks. And I've got a lot of experience selling them too, like I said. So when you're selling a duplex, the most important thing to remember is it's not that different than selling a home. There are some really key differences, and we'll talk about those. But your best buyer for a duplex is somebody like me in the past that's going to buy it and is going to live in this property. So why does that matter? Most duplex owners own them as rental properties. And when you own something as a rental property, your goal is to get a tenant, to keep a tenant as long as you can for as high as rent as you can. Or in a lot of people's case, they just really want to not have turnover. So they might keep the rent a little bit below market. Now, this is not what you want when you go to sell a property. You want at least one unit able to be occupied by a buyer, and you want the rent as high as possible. So a buyer is not going to pay you more money because you have great tenants and they've been there for 10 years if they're $200 or $300 below market rent and they're both on 2-year leases. In fact, they're going to pay you less money because of that. So back to what you want the property to look like. If you're going to have one or both units occupied, they need to be at or above market rents, so as high as you can get rents. And then you need to have at least one unit vacant, ideally vacant. And I know that sounds taboo to landlords, but when you're selling a duplex, you want, if you can, you want one unit vacant, ideally both units vacant, or one unit at the very least is on a month-to-month lease or on a lease that expires in the next 30 to 60 days. And you might say, Jordan, why on earth would I want both units vacant? Here's exactly why. Because the owner occupant or the new buyer needs to have as many options as possible for you to get the top dollar for the duplex. So if somebody's going to move into one unit, maybe they want to run an Airbnb or short-term rental or a medium-term rental on the other unit. They can't do this if it has a long-term tenant. Absolutely, positively, you will get people that will pay more for your property completely vacant than will pay for your property when it has one long-term tenant and one month-to-month. 100% you will get somebody that pays more for that than pays for properties with 2-year leases on it with below market rent. You just narrow your buyer pool the higher you go on it. So the less options people have, the less buyers you're going to attract and the less money you're going to get. So again, back to the most ideal situation, have it completely vacant. I'd say, Jordan, that's crazy. Trust me, I've done this well over 100 times. And I've seen it go extremely well. I've also seen people not follow this advice and either not be able to sell their duplex or take less for it because they've got 2 fully occupied units with long-term leases but low market value. Don't do that. Absolutely don't do that if you at all can avoid it. If you need to buy tenants out, let's say you've got 2 people on 2-year leases, they're below market rent, you might say, hey Billy, I know you've lived here for 5 years. I'll give you $1,000 to move out here in 2 months. That can work too. I've done that. Now, on to preparing the property for sale. So again, it's not going to be too different. This is the part that's not going to be too different than normal home sales. So you want to make it look great. So fix any little things that's wrong. One of the biggest mistakes home sellers make is they say, well, I'll just leave that for the next buyer to do. They can take care of it. They can do what they want. Do not do that. Please do not do that. Whether you're selling a home, whether you're selling a duplex, whether you're selling a 20-unit apartment building. if you leave things undone or you leave things that need to be repaired, people are going to want discounts or want money off or want you to repair these things, and it's going to cost you more money. Just do it before you sell. It's always the rule. Fix any deferred maintenance before you sell the property. Do some paint touch-ups before you sell the property. Make it look amazing. Make it look like I could buy this property and move in today, or I could buy this property and move new tenants in today, in the case of a rental property. So the same thing applies with the duplex. Go through, find anything that's wrong, especially if you have one vacant unit that's going to be potentially owner occupied. Make that unit look great. Maybe put some new light fixtures in it. Maybe freshen up the paint. Maybe fix up the bathrooms, fix up the kitchens. That's going to differ per the property, per where it is and the price point. But I've seen people get the best results with duplexes that are fully remodeled in nice areas and look great. I've had some duplex properties that we've sold sell way above the comps with appraisal waivers, where you're saying, Jordan, there's no way this property's worth $800,000. And because it looks so amazing, it sells for that price, and you just set a new comp for the neighborhood. So you absolutely positively can do that with duplexes. Just make sure you spend the money in the right places: kitchens, bathrooms, paint, lights, flooring. Just what's the littlest amount of money you can spend to make the biggest impact is what you have to think. And is it worth spending a lot of money to get a huge impact? And if you have any questions about that and you're in the Austin area or Minneapolis, St. Paul, reach out to me. My team would love to help. But fix these things up, make them look great. You will get rewarded for it, and you will get rewarded well for it. Okay, one of another very important thing that people say, why would you possibly do this with a duplex, is you need to stage the property. And on a duplex, that might be virtual staging, but you need to do some sort of staging on a property to get top dollar for it. Unless it's just so screamingly well priced and looks great and is in a good area, you're going to need to stage it. Staging always pays off. Virtual staging is cheap. Stage your properties, and again, you will be rewarded for it. But lastly, you need to always make sure you price a property correctly. Duplexes are not different. So the interesting thing about duplex properties is duplexes are still residential properties. I know they're rental properties. I know they make great rental properties. I have a few, I love them. But they're not valued based off income. But they are, people consider them based off the income. So the value is going to be, what's the value of the property around yours? People aren't going to pay more than that. Say, hey, Jordan, I see this duplex. It's this big. It's in this area. This property over here sold for this much. This one sold for that much, and that one sold for that much. They're going to take that into account when they're valuing your property. The appraiser is the most important part there. But a buyer is going to look at the property's income. Like I was saying, if you have people on long-term leases that are low, they're not even going to look at it. They're not going to pay you the money that it's worth when it's not attractive from an income perspective. The lender and the appraiser are going to be the ones that value it based on comparable sales. It's a number one determinant as far as the value goes of your duplex is comparable sales, but the buyer is looking at it through the lens of an investment, just the same as what are the comparable sales there. So while in the end duplexes are not worth any more than the comparable sales of the property or what can be justified there by an appraiser, you have to make it attractive to the buyer. So with commercial real estate, it's mostly based on income. With residential real estate and in duplexes, residential real estate still, it's going to be mostly based on the comparable sales, but you do want to make it look as attractive as possible for a buyer or leave the options open for a buyer. I've never had someone say, hey, because I can't see what you're getting rent on this property, I'm not interested on a duplex. They just say, hey, you know, I see the duplex in this area rent for this much. We put the estimated market rent in there, and that's all they care about. They just care about that, hey, it's completely vacant, probably going to run a short-term rental, probably going to run a medium-term rental, maybe going to rent by the room, a lot of other popular strategies rather than just renting the unit on a year lease. And people need those options. So again, if you're selling a duplex, make the place vacant if at all possible. If not, make sure you have at least one unit on a month-to-month lease and that's going to go a long way. Make sure that the property's in good shape, make sure it's staged, and make sure it's priced right. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I would love to answer any duplex sale related questions. Jordan Moorhead at kw.com. Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel here too. Thank you. Have a great day.